Now you might have clicked on this video because you saw my first video. I watched 4 disturbing movies and only 1 didn't suck. It's also possible you didn't, so let me not waste your time. I almost never watch disturbing movies, but my morbid curiosity is what helps drive a video like this. It almost helps me feel more justified watching these movies if I can discuss them on my platform, because imagine watching these types of movies, turning them off, and then just carrying that shit with you. That's psycho shit. Who just watches some traumatizing ass film and goes to bed like everything's okay? In this video, I will be reviewing 4 disturbing movies. And like I did with my first video, I chose movies that I have never heard of, that I know nothing about. I'm going in blind. And I actually got these from the comment section of that video. So if they suck, that's your bad. The 4 titles I chose for this video are We Need to Talk About Kevin, Antrum, Tusk, and The Road. This was a hell of a movie to start off on. It's not a piece of shit, so I do want to offer you a spoiler-free review before I give you a much more in-depth review, because I do want to give you the opportunity to watch it yourself and then come back if it piques your curiosity. We Need to Talk About Kevin is a slow burn of a movie. We follow Eva's transition from a young romance to a family life. Her struggle with this only intensifies with her inability to control, let alone connect with her new son. We follow this timeline to his teenage years, and the relationship only worsens along with Kevin's behavior. Eva is played from Tilda Swinton, who you might recognize from Suspiria. She does a great job in this movie along with the main cast, I would say. It's presented in a pretty odd fashion. There's a lot of timeline jumps, there's a lot of flashbacks, and it's possible that could take somebody out of the movie, especially considering the movie's nearly 2 hours long. I have my gripes with certain scenes that I think lower this psychological thriller into something a bit more cartoonish. If anything, that's what took me out of it at times. It's far from perfect, but I personally enjoyed it. I want to watch it again because I believe a second watch could bring me a new experience, and as far as its disturbing factor, it's rather low on my scale. I'd give it a 3 out of 10. The movie is uncomfortable. You start to go a little nuts yourself as the movie drags on. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that's purposeful, but disturbing? It's somewhat bleak, it's gross at times, but I would say the movie's pretty tolerable. Honda Civics. I mean, spoilers. The opening scene is this fever-like dream where our main character is at what I think is a real thing, actually, a massive tomato food fight in Spain. Or I don't know, maybe it's a massive dog pile and pasta sauce. Looks like a Chef Boyardee. We meet the family of Eva, Franklin, Kevin, and number 2. And I'll tell you right now, the first 15 minutes, you have no idea what the fuck is going on because the movie is bouncing everywhere. Even revisiting it, after knowing everything that happens, still slightly lost. Yo, you ever try Asian restaurant? Shit is crazy. Eva is the Michelle Grace of mothers. She hates her baby's cry so much she'd rather listen to a jackhammer and rupture her baby's eardrums. Things don't get much better as he grows up because, well, look at his face. You learn he's in prison as an adult, but we don't know why. The timeline continues to play out very jumbled. This kid does a Fortnite dance way ahead of his time. I love how this movie makes everything look and feel repulsive. She goes out to get lunch and gets a fresh-ass Panera sandwich, and it looks like shit. Like the garnish was a people's elbow. Her chewing gives me nausea, the food looks rained out. They show some titties, and I'm not even rocking with those. Everything looks gross. You know how Michelle Grace said her 2-year-old would purposely do things to get under her skin because her 2-year-old is capable of such a diabolical mindset? This kid is actually that. She dresses up a room that reminds her of what she loves, inspires her, and this knucklehead becomes the alpha in one false swoop. Fuck you, Mom.
Okay, let's work on our counting. What comes after 3?
9.
What comes after 7?
We should actually back up real quick, Eva. That's not correct. He mentally tortures his mom just being a smartass and a menace.
41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Now coming quick.
After a failed learning numbers session, Eva tries to flex on him with her high school graduateness. So he says, all right, speaking of numbers, how about a deuce? So she cleans him up, but then he's like, hey, what's that? He keeps shitting. He just has that type of talent. All right, shitty butt-ass boy, go long! And even with a broken arm, this kid got mind games for days. By the way, if you ever wanted to dissuade someone from not having kids, throw this on during your next movie night. The New York Times gave it 2 thumbs up and 2 tubes tied. By the way, Franklin is none the wiser because Kevin just always shows him love. And even with all of this, Eva says, fuck it, let's have 2 little Dahmers.
So the daddy bear plants his seed in the mommy bear and it grows into an egg.
It's just about fucking.
Do you know what that means?
The boy puts his pee-pee in the girl's doo-doo.
I mean, only when she's feeling spicy. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell your mom I said that. Time passes, number 2 grows up, Kevin picks up archery, and this is where the imprisoned Kevin delivers some of his more cheesy dialogue, which is a little too on the nose for me. He has this little speech, and basically what he's doing is this. We live in a society. He tortures his little sister and also doesn't mind getting caught whacking it by his mom. Just jacking it to the decor, my guy? Maybe he's just putting on some Manscaped ball deodorant, I don't know. This movie also partakes in something that Happiness did, playing this cheery, upbeat music when what you're actually watching is just horribly depressing. I think it's fun. Once again, they really overdo it with this smart shit attitude, in my opinion. This might be my least favorite dialogue in the movie.
So, how's school going?
It's going. On my course schedule.
How about your teachers? Are there any who are
Right.
special?
What bands am I listening to these days? Right. Next, you can wheedle about whether there isn't some cute little cunt in the front row who's got me itchy. That way you can segue into how it's all up to me, of course, but before bawling the chick in the hallway. You know, I might decide to wait until I'm ready. Right around dessert, you can ask about drugs. Real careful, like, because you don't want to...
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.
I saw a hamster for 1 second on screen, and of course he's gonna die. Kevin tosses him in the garbage disposal, and then lets his sister play with Drano and lose her eye. But that poor hamster is fucking adorable. Incident after incident, with Eva blaming Kevin for everything, and Franklin not seeing the validity, starts to divide the two, and they plan to split up. Meanwhile, Kevin's just eavesdropping, looking like Kylo Ren. Kevin buys some bicycle locks, and he plans to sell them.
You make a bundle selling them at school.
Like Donald Trump, huh?
That sounds so weird. His name being referenced pre-presidency just sounds like it was deep faked in. Unfortunately, this movie is as relevant as ever because, as some of you may have guessed by now, Kevin actually had something much more sinister in mind. Once at school, he locks up the doors of his gym with those bicycle locks and shows off his archery skills one last time. Eva hears of trouble at his school and is shocked to see injury after injury, only to see her son walk out with a smug smile. He's taken away by police and she rushes home to a dark, silent house, only to discover Franklin and her daughter have also been murdered by Kevin, and the movie ends shortly after. I could see this movie receiving a lot of backlash for perhaps glorifying something like this, but I don't think it quite reaches that point. It introduces one's yearn for notoriety with these types of crimes, and that's a tough thing to display without glorifying it, at least through the killer's eyes. But I think it was presented well, and I personally liked it. But now let's dig deep into our next disturbing film, Antrum, the deadliest film ever made. Okay, this shit is getting out of hand. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. I apparently just watched a film that's cursed, deemed the deadliest film ever made. This movie actually starts with a short documentary about the movie, telling us that this movie was actually made in the late 70s, but officially released in 2018. They talk about this movie being associated with oddly timed incidents with the people who watched the movie. The first theater to show it was burned down during the screening. Just a whole bunch of Scooby-Dooby bullshit. It's a mockumentary to scare the shit out of you before you watch it. But remember, I did zero research on these movies before watching, so when I saw all of this, I was extremely skeptical, but I bit. Cursed film? Why not? For my audience. And even now, I don't know how I feel about it. Let me give you the plot, and then I'll name off some positives. And for this one, spoilers right off the bat. The family dog dies, and the younger brother, Nathan, can't cope with it. For some reason, he thinks their puppers went to hell. So his older sister, Orly, takes Nathan to dig in the middle of the forest. She does this so they can descend into the different layers of hell to finally communicate with their sinful pooch and properly lay his soul to rest. That's the plot of Antrum. They're digging up dirt to save a bitch. It's like a YouTuber trying to deflect a call out. So we later figure out Orly is lying to Nathan. All this demonic mumbo jumbo is just a Hail Mary to help him come to terms with their dead dog. However, it ends up all being real because the kid is seeing all types of shit and they're falling in line with what Orly described. Antrum is more scary than disturbing. What's disturbing is subjective, but I feel this does a better job of having you watch in fear. This movie really isn't for the jump scares, but when I'm watching, I am constantly prepping for one. Every scene feels like a visual cue for a pop-out. The way the audio has been toyed with feels like consecutive audio cues for a boom to have you jump. So I end up bracing myself throughout the majority of the movie. And I don't think I like that shit. I feel like I become less focused on the movie. That was actually supposed to be a positive for the movie, but I don't think so anymore. Fuck it, let's talk about the negatives. This movie drags. There's a lot of digging and looking at dirt and looking at different dirt and looking at trees. We watch them piss for a bit. Referencing the mockumentary again, they tell us that the film was considered lost at one point, and it wasn't until 30-40 years later that they recovered the film, but they were not sure if it had been tampered with because there were scenes spliced in. There was visual and audio problems. They think it was either deliberate by the creators or a third party got their hands on the film and did this. And all that tampering sucks. It's pretty bad. It gives me dark web unboxing vibes, and all it does is remind me that this movie is being a little fucking tryhard in the effort to try and creep me out. Exhibit A. This sigil pops up randomly throughout the movie 170 times. Yes, I counted. I didn't count, they tell us, but the ending of the movie is the second half of the mockumentary where they say somebody put plastic over the film that was inscribed with the sigils. A demonologist then tells us that the sigil is that of Astaroth. And when he told us that that sigil belonged to Astaroth, all I could think was, that party last night was awfully crazy. I wish we taped it. We had some candles and saw him and Lucy completely naked. And as if 170 of these wasn't enough, they throw text on screen too that are in Latin. Woo! And the spice in footage is completely out of place. It ends up being symbolism. But this footage is what I would expect a shitty, disturbing film to look like. You got something decent going on here. Why are you trying to fuck it up? And that's only the visual tampering. The audio tampering is annoying. Does it catch you off guard? Does it slow down the music at random times to give it that spooky twang? Does it fuck with your ears and audible expectations? Yes! But once again, I am just reminded that you are very much purposely creating the equivalent of a try not to scare compilation on YouTube. It's cheap tricks. It's basically me throwing a filter over this video and then slowing down the background track a bit and then having me skip in the middle of this sentence. Creepy. It's cheese. Now there's a lot of weird visuals and a good handful of them come from when Nathan has nightmares. And I have to mention this one specifically. There's a really unsettling almost 30 seconds of this grainy devil just staring at you with just the very light audio of ripples in the film. And I squared up with him for about like 10 seconds and then I said, fuck this. I got creeped out because it's creepy. I took my headphones off. I made the screen smaller and shit. I'll show it to you so you can kind of experience it, but I understand not all of you want to watch it. So instead of plopping it in the middle of the video and having you have to skip or some shit like that, I'm going to put it at the very, very end of the video. So if you want to watch it now, skip to this timestamp and then come back to this timestamp. And also for those of you avoiding it, don't forget it's there. What else? There's a squirrel in the movie that reminds me of this scene from SpongeBob. There's a solid minute of this guy just murmuring into your headphones while the scene plays out. There's honestly just a shit ton of noise in this movie. By the way, Nathan's in blackface for the final portion of the movie. And if you imagine that they purposely did that, it makes this scene 10 times as funny. I haven't even really mentioned anything that happens, and that's because not a lot does. I guess I can bring up the ending because they revert to a B horror movie with this complete lack of a steady rule set, because the kid gets shot and the sister gets shot and the movie doesn't end. They both survive and they don't limp, hold their wound, or even address it again. They just eat that shit. And then the kid with his festering bullet wound is thrown into a makeshift devil oven and he's in there for a while and he's fine. You should be medium rare by now, my guy. Looking at the story as a whole, it doesn't even make that much sense to me. I don't get the motivation of the demons. Is it just to torture them? Are they forever stuck here? Does nobody else think it's funny that her name is Orally? Am I just a child? The movie's fine. A second watch would do nothing for me. I don't seek it. I think it's a cool concept, and they totally went all in for the most part. But be warned, you're supposed to die after watching it, so how the fuck am I supposed to edit this? It's a creepy experience, but disturbing. I think all the stupid fucking cheese really waters that disturbing factor down. I'd say 4 out of 10. Now, let us take a dip into our next disturbing film, Tusk. which is a movie that was created by Kevin Smith simply from banter on his podcast. Which I have to say, having the stupid idea to actually, pun intended, sinking your teeth into it is commendable. The movie lost over $1 million, and now I'm going to talk about why it should have lost more. I'm just joking. Let me explain. I started the movie and immediately saw it was distributed by A24. I then saw Harley from Epic Mealtime make an appearance. That's where I had to pause the movie and double check that this was a disturbing movie and not some scary movie, epic movie type shit. And I quickly saw that it was supposed to have comedic elements, but I still saw it being referred to as disturbing. So I said, fuck it, carry on with the gay bacon strips. Or whatever. Can you guys even make that joke anymore? All I know is what followed was boring. For the most part. There's a lot of talking. I mean a lot of it. Let me explain the plot. There's a podcast duo named the Not See Party, and it's very, very popular, like the real one. One half of the duo ends up going out to Canada to get some spicy content. But after his potential interview, well, dies, he's desperate and sees a public calling from a man with many stories and a spare room. He meets him, but the man has actually lured him in and drugged him because he wants to turn him into a walrus. Is this thing still on? The reason why he wants to turn him into a walrus is because he used to be stuck on an island where he befriended a walrus, and he just misses the big lug. So he operates on him, and the surgery is a success.
Stop it! Walruses never cry!
Ha! This is Dugong after his 80th battle with Pikachu.
Hey!
Why do you keep sending me out? I lose every time. I know headbutt and growl. Fuck is that gonna do against this thunder possum? How's my main move rest and that's something you won't let me do? You look like a beluga dojo master. You look like you get described as big, scary, and pink. So after that abomination, we have this character introduced. A detective trying to help his friends find him. The main guy's name is Wallace, by the way. But this detective guy sucks. He has these incredibly long monologues, as does almost every other character, but these are supposed to be funny, and they're not. Also, I totally didn't notice this. If you did, congrats. This is fucking Johnny Depp, who has a shitty Joker meets Dr. Schultz accent.
I have been hunting this Howard Howe.
And by the way, just in case you don't believe me with the drawn out scenes.
On Monday night, I come in, I pick up the stick, and I bring the little ones water, you know, during the drills and all that. And then on Monday nights, we go out for poutine. Have you ever been to Poutine Weenie on Rue de Jour?
Poutine really does not agree with me.
Oh,
My innards, it creates such a poutine gives me just the worst shits.
Dog, is this a fucking Gator Poon skit?
Ahoy, matey!
You look like a ball sack mighty morphed into a seal. You look like Leatherfish, the Texas rainfall manatee. You look like you look like Finding Chemo. So is this movie good? It's not. It's a fun idea, but I didn't have that much fun watching it. It just missed the mark for me. Is this movie disturbing? Not at all. I thought it would be more gruesome with the walrus surgery, but he's just gross to look at. 2 out of 10. And now we take a long walk down to our final disturbing film, The Road. Okay, so apparently, without even trying, I've chosen disturbing movies in all different pockets of disturbing. We need to talk about Kevin is like a psychological drama. Is that a thing? I don't know. Antrum was horror. Tusk was like a comedic thriller. And The Road is just fucking sad, but not nearly as much as people make it out to be. Spoilers. The Road is debatably worse than Tusk. I'm sorry. If you don't get sucked into all the feels, it fucking blows. Shut out orally. It's painfully slow. Visually, it's aged horribly. Here's the movie. By the way, the Tusk comment was a little strong. I'll take that one back. So there's an apocalypse or massive natural disaster or something, and a father and son are forced to survive this wasteland. And in a lineup of some very slow movies, The Road was the worst film to end on. I was just sitting there anxious, like die already. A bunch of stuff happens. They almost get found by the remaining savages like 8 times. They eat grasshoppers and are forced with scenarios where they have to make some tough decisions. It's The Walking Dead meets Bird Box, with someone's poopy asshole spread open on top. And I think this will end up being my most controversial stance out of all the 4. I just didn't feel what they wanted me to feel. And I'm a sucker for cheap tears. But I didn't feel sad when his father died. I felt much more sad when Adam Sandler's dad said, "I love you, son." Click made me feel more emotion than The Road. I don't know if that says more about The Road or me. Let's talk about the movie. There's a quasi Coca-Cola ad in the middle, which didn't deliver with a fourth wall break. Very disappointing. I honestly feel like after starving for so long, the acidity of a Coke would just murder you. There's one point in the movie where his dad's just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go search that shit, BRB." So casually. This man is starving, coughing up blood, has a fucked up knee, but yeah! Let me just take a quick dip through Poseidon's rage to somehow board the Titanic. This is such a long swim against these waves. This motherfucker can't run. Even Tusk couldn't make it over there. But lo and behold, Phelps gets the gold in a few minutes flat. Surf's up. Papa. This fucking kid says Papa one more time, I'm gonna pop a cap in his ass. I wouldn't even consider this movie disturbing, and I'm upset with the person that did. It's just this dark realism about some of the choices you gotta make when shit gets real. But it's a 1 out of 10 on the disturbing scale. Now, if I had to rank these films from best to worst, it would go as follows. We Need to Talk About Kevin, Antrum, The Road, then Tusk. Consider yourself lucky. But disturbing wise, it goes as follows. Antrum, We Need to Talk About Kevin, Tusk, then The Road. Hit the road, Jack. Say the fuck back. Say Papa. Say Papa. I'm shocked that none of these movies even got a 5 on the disturbing scale for me. I feel like this video's a sham. A sham, wow, because I just cleaned up my pubes with Manscaped. Promo code Mista20. Links down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and here is your second reminder to please leave a like. Subscribe because I have more content coming your way. If you want to hear me talk about more disturbing movies, please feel free to watch my original video, or head on over to my Patreon where next month I will be giving you the option to vote for me to review a disturbing movie of your choice. I already did Salo on there, so who the hell knows what they'd vote for this time. Shout out to Dizzy Gold for retweeting my last video tweet, and as always, I am Mista-GG, and I am out. Don't forget about the demon fucking dude. And also, massive shout out to my patrons who I will now read off in the form of an ad. Hey guys, have you heard about Volter and Valentine Snow? That's right, this video is sponsored by Tiana and Surreal Subwoofer. When you play Star Madness, you can use Sonic Fan 28 to get a sketchy HD, Dark Fantasy Sergio Valencia, over 15 million Sam Honeymans in just under 3 Reese. Collect over 400 Philip Hornies, my personal favorite being Oh On God, but Nick Lulick and Mitchell Hines are close seconds. And they're also coming out with a brand new Mikey K, where you can now use Marty, Marnie, and Mark Deatherage. And if you Lucas Nally now, you will receive Lindsay Jasper, Leticia, and Lori Goodwin. Download Kai Jordan Berry using Julian Mozzarella and use promo code Jalen Mullins for Hypest Princess off Hunter Uray. It's available on Heisenberg White, it's available on Georgia Peach Forever, and it's now even available on Devin Diaz. So Demon Gamer Kitty using Dank Meme King, and thank you to Commander Bork for bass carding this video. Now let's get back to Austin Kid. Armando, April Howe, Amanda Martinez, Alexander Flessas, AJ Cowley, Aaron Bertram. Sorry, you didn't make the ad.